Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a while, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Brooke, and today, as you can see from the title of my video, I'm going to be telling my ectopic pregnancy story. And also like it's my testimony. My testimony of faith, because I believe that I believe that everything happens for a reason, but I believe that this is my testimony to share, and I want to share it so that way people out there, because when I was going through it, I was on YouTube looking for videos of other people's stories to see that I wasn't alone, and that, you know, just to see that there was other people going through the same thing, or something similar of a situation, and that I was going to get through this, and that this was happening for a reason, and that God had a plan for my life and for just this whole thing. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. So basically, to start off, this was baby number 3. We have let's see, as of right now, we have an almost 8-year-old. In August, we have a 4-year-old, and currently now we have our rainbow baby, which is another story that I will go into, another video I will go into. And he'll be 1 in July. So anyway, so let's just jump right into the actual story of planning to get pregnant with baby number 3. So we decided that it was time. It was time to get ready for baby number 3. It was 2018. It was like springtime of 2018. And we're like, all right, let's take my IUD out. Actually, no, it wasn't springtime. It was, let's see, it was August or July, around that time of 2018. And I have an IUD, and that's always worked for me. So I was like, all right, let's go to the doctor's. Let's make an appointment. I will get my IUD taken out, and then we will try for baby number 3. So got my IUD taken out, and everything was fine. It was great. And they said you shouldn't have unprotected sex for, I think they said like a month, like 1 cycle. And yeah, well, we didn't do that. We didn't wait. I just figured, like, it's not like we're gonna get pregnant like in like a day, like even a week or 2 seconds, So looking back now, I wish we wouldn't have done that, but that is what it is. So come to find out, looking back now, I was ovulating like right as my IUD was even taken out. And I kept feeling like a couple weeks after that, I kept feeling like it was probably like 3 weeks or so after that. I kept feeling like off, like I was off. I was feeling weird. I was like, okay, I've been pregnant twice. Okay, like I'm taking a pregnancy test because I just don't feel right. So take a pregnancy test, came out negative. I was like, okay, this is weird. But I just kept like feeling like off, and I knew something was wrong. Like I knew, like in my heart and my gut, like I knew something was going on, and I had to just keep taking pregnancy tests until it came out positive, because I knew that it was. So, I don't remember looking back, like thinking, like I can't remember like how many pregnancy tests I took or how often or whatever. But anyways, I think it was like I took another one, came out negative, and then a week went by and I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna take another one, came out negative again, and then I don't know when it was, but one morning I woke up and something told me, like, because I hadn't taken a pregnancy test for a little bit at that point, and I was like, it's obviously negative. So yeah, I woke up one morning and I'm like, I need to take a pregnancy test. Like, something just inside me was like, take a pregnancy test right now. And I think I had like one left, and I'm like, okay. So I took a pregnancy test and bam, positive. I was like, I knew it. Oh my gosh, I knew it. I was so excited. I was like jumping up and down, and I'm like, I knew it. Like I should have never doubted myself. Like, I knew it. So I think my husband was home. My husband was home. He was, and I remember this, he was sitting in the chair down in the living room, and I walked down the stairs and I like went out in front of him and with the pregnancy test. So, I mean, from out back of him, and I pulled it in front of his face and I was like, look. And he's like, what are you, like, what? And I'm like, look, like, what does this mean? And he's just like, you pregnant? And I was like, yes. He's like, what, already? I was like, yes. Like, I was like, I told you, I knew it. And so anyways, he was like, that's awesome, like, whatever. He was excited. And I'm like, okay, so I need to make a doctor's appointment. And like, so I made a doctor's appointment. And fast forward, I'm gonna not try to make this lengthy, but I think I had 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks later, and I don't think I had been seen yet. I don't think I had been seen yet for like a pregnancy test or anything like that in the office, but yeah, it was 2 weeks later, and I just started having this like sharp pain on the left side of me, like just down here, way down here. And it was kind of like in and out, like I'd have this pain, I'm like, oh, you know, kind of like ouch, like stopped me in my tracks a little bit. But then it like kind of went away, and I was like, okay, that's weird. But then it started again, and then it like kept going like in and out for like a little bit, like maybe like an hour or two. And then a couple hours later, it started like constant, and I was doubled over on the couch, and I was like, oh my gosh, something isn't right. This hurts. I'm like, ow, 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 ow. And so my husband was like, okay, you need to call the midwife. You need to call and see what's going on. So I called. Luckily, my midwife was on call. So I got a call out to her. They said that she would call back when she got the message. So she calls back, and I remember I was upstairs on my balcony outside my room, and she said, what are you feeling? And at that point, I was feeling referred shoulder pain, which is a sign of, obviously a sign of ectopic pregnancy. So I was having referred shoulder pain. I think it was in my right shoulder, so opposite shoulder to where I was feeling the pain. And so I told her, I said, I'm having some shoulder pain in my right shoulder, and I feel that sharp, sharp pain in my left side. And she's like, oh no. And you know, it just, those words, like just her voice, like I could tell, like, she's like, you might be having an ectopic pregnancy. And I said, what? And so I just started crying, and she was like, okay, so I'm going to call the ER right now, and I'm going to tell them that you're going to be on your way. You need to go in right now. And so hopefully you won't have to wait very, very long, and they'll get you in because they'll be expecting you. So I was like, okay. So I go to the ER, and I said, hey, my midwife called me in, blah, blah, blah. So they wrote down all my information, checked me in, and I sat there and waited, and I just looked at my husband, and I'm like, something's wrong, and I'm scared, and I didn't know what to feel or how to feel. I'm like, I never thought that something would happen to me. like this. Like, I'd never had a miscarriage before. I'd never had any issues like with pregnancy. Obviously I get pregnant really quickly. I have 2 healthy babies, so I'm like, this is, you know, this is strange and this really stinks. But anyway, so we get called in and I get into a room and they're like, okay, we're gonna send you for an emergency ultrasound like right now. So I go straight to the ultrasound room and she starts doing the transvaginal ultrasound, which is when they insert it because it's really early in the pregnancy. She's like, so how far along do you think you are? And I said, I think I'm around like 6-7 weeks. It's pretty early. And she's like, okay. So she goes in and starts looking around, and I've been pregnant before 2 times. Like, I know what ultrasounds look like, and I didn't see anything in my uterus, and my heart sunk into my stomach, and I looked over at my husband and I'm like, I don't even remember I don't think I said anything. I just looked at him and I just knew, that something was wrong. And there's no, and this whole time, like, the ultrasound tech's like not saying a word. Like, she's just like, I'm just looking around and, you know, I'll give it to the doctor and then you'll find out like results and stuff. So, she does everything, and sorry, some of this seems like such a blur because it was a blur at the time. But she left the room and she said, you know, you might have to go back out and sit in the waiting room for a little while or whatever, before you get into a triage room or whatever it's called. And so I was like, okay. Well, she leaves the room and I just burst into tears and I look at my husband and I'm like, something is wrong, and I'm like, I'm scared, and I was just so distraught. And so she comes back and she goes, actually, she's like, brings in a wheelchair and she's like, we're gonna wheel you right over to a room. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, this is serious. So I go into the room, and at this point we still have, we had our kids with us, and we had called, I know my husband had called his parents, my parents, like, to let them know what was going on, and that had made plans for his parents to take the kids and until like further notice and stuff. So so my parents showed up and I was just crying and crying and crying, and I didn't know why this was happening to me and all this stuff. And my parents were there when the doctor came back in and said, we have the results from the ultrasound. So they had the results from the ultrasound, and she said, I just want to let you know that this is an ectopic pregnancy in your left side. And I just, like, while she was in the room, I just burst into tears again. Like, it was just ongoing. And, you know, my parents were there to comfort me. Nick was there, my husband was there to comfort me, and it just felt so, like, it was just so, I don't know, just raw feeling, and it just didn't feel right. Yeah, it was just a really hard time. And the thing is like, everything was happening so fast. It was just, I was having pain, and then I'm going to the ER, and then they're telling me that it's an ectopic pregnancy, and I just didn't know. I was just overwhelmed. I was very overwhelmed, and I was confused, and I was scared, and I was like, what is gonna happen? I just had so many emotions. And then his parents showed up, my husband's parents showed up, and they, you know, just came in, and I cried, and, you know, my mother-in-law hugged me, and just, you know, everything was going to be all right. And just, they were just saying all these different things, like, just to make me feel, you know, comforted and feel better. And I just had so much support, which was awesome. And I just remember praying and praying, and I'm like, God, please, like, just keep me safe. I'm scared. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's going on, but I just know that everything happens for a reason, and just please, just keep me safe. And I remember my parents praying over me, and just over me and my husband, and just, it was just so much prayer. And I know that this was all meant to happen. And his parents left with the kids, and the doctor came in again and basically said that we looked over the ultrasound further, and you are also going to be needing surgery, emergency surgery right now, and that you are going to be losing your left fallopian tube along with the pregnancy. And I just was distraught. I was like, so on top of losing my baby, I am going to be losing my fertility as well. And there's no words to put into the feeling that I felt at that moment. I was asking God, I'm like, why? Like, why me? You know, just the normal questions that people ask, you know, they're like, why me? Why me? Why? And, I didn't know the reason why at the time. It was just so overwhelming, and I was so scared because I had never had surgery before, like major surgery like that before. And so I was so scared. And, yeah, so it was really, really rough. But, fast forward a little bit, I was getting prepped for surgery. And I remember meeting with my surgeon, and she was talking to me, and she, you know, I was pretty confident in her that she said that she does this all the time, this, you know, surgery, and that they were going to be going through, cutting through my left side, and also going through like my belly button area as well, that I had to be put on anesthesia, and I was put to sleep, and all this stuff. Well, my poor husband, he was in the room alone in the waiting room. There's nobody else in there, and I can't imagine how he was feeling. And I think I remember him saying that it was like a couple hours or something, like a couple hours surgery or something. And I remember though sitting before surgery when they were asking me questions, and they were going through everything and blah, blah, blah. I remember looking at my surgeon, and I said, "Are you sure that you're taking my tube?" And she looked at me and said, "Yes, like we looked at the ultrasound, and it doesn't look good. Like, it looks bad. You're internally bleeding, and it looks like a mess in there, like an absolute mess in there. It just doesn't look good, and you need to get your tube removed." And through this whole thing, I never said anything, but I forgot to say this or mention this, but my midwife was there the whole time with me. She checked in with me. She hugged me. She cried. You know, I cried to her, and she was just amazing. She was there the whole time. And then I found out later that she had gone into the surgery room while I was there, and was there the whole entire surgery. And she was the first person that I saw. Well, I remember that wasn't who I saw, but I was like, you know, all drugged up and stuff, so I don't remember. But she was the first person that I remember seeing when I woke up. And I'll go back to that in a minute, but the first thing I wanted to say was, when I looked at my surgeon, she said, "We're 100% taking your tube." Like, she was writing down the notes. She was writing down what was going to be happening during the surgery, and she said 100% taking left tube. And it just looked too bad in there. And that was what had to happen in order for me to basically survive, because, you know, if you don't do anything about this and you have internal bleeding, you can die. And so it was just, that's what had to happen. So, so fast forward, I'd go through the surgery and everything. I wake up, per se, kind of, I was foggy, whatever, and I saw my midwife, and every time I think about this, I'm gonna try not to cry, but, every time I talk about this, I don't talk about it, I haven't talked about it in a really, really long time, but I get chills every time, because I remember her saying, she looked at me and she said, Brooke, she said, the surgery went amazing and they didn't have to take your tube. Like, they saved your tube. And I was like taken back, and I'm like, what? And I just was like, wow. Like, I was just completely like overwhelmed, and I just knew that that was an absolute miracle. It was an absolute miracle that happened, and that they were able to save my tube. And when I had talked to the doctors after, the surgeon after and everything, they were like shocked. They were like, this never happens. This just doesn't happen. We went in there and everything looked healthy. Like, it was like, we looked at the ultrasound, it looked like an utter mess. And we go to do the surgery on you, and we went in there and your tube was, we were able to save it. It was healthy. It was fine, and it just doesn't happen. And I'm like, I know 100 bazillion, even that's a word, percent, that this was a complete miracle, and that God was there with me the whole entire time. I felt him, I felt his presence. I remember hearing him say that everything was going to be okay, and that this was all for a reason. And I get chills every time I talk about it, because I know that this was meant to happen, and it was meant to happen because he needed to show, I needed to feel his presence. I needed to know that he was still here for me, that everything was going to be all right, and that I needed to grow closer to him, just that I needed that like strong reminder, like, in life. And I know that this was all for a reason. And I am so, not that, like, you know, I'm glad that I had an ectopic pregnancy and that my baby died and whatever. Obviously not, but I wouldn't have obviously my baby boy today if it wasn't for that. And I wouldn't have grown stronger in Christ, and I wouldn't have grown stronger in my relationship with my husband, because that was just a really strong point in our marriage, getting through something like that. So it's amazing. It's amazing what God can do in bad situations. And so that's basically my story, my ectopic pregnancy story, my testimony of faith, and that that I know that everything happens for a reason, and I'm so glad that things happen like that, and that everything happened like it did. And I do have to add that I want to say it was just a couple days after surgery. So the other thing I wanted to add was it was a couple days after surgery. I was recovering at home, and I was on the couch, and I remember I never see butterflies around here, like around my house. And it was just so strange to me, but I know what it was, and I know that it was our baby that was showing up. And there was a butterfly that landed right on our screen. We have a slider door, and the door was open, but the screen was closed, and it landed right on the screen, on the top of the screen, and it stayed there for, I'd say, a good like 20, 25, 30 minutes, and it did not move. And I know it was a symbol of our baby telling us that he or she was okay, and that he or she was with Jesus, and we were going to see them again. And I have a picture of that. And I think about that sometimes, and it's just amazing. It's amazing how things work out. So that is it. I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button if you like this video. If you want to see more videos to come. I'm so excited to start sharing some more awesome videos with you guys. So yeah, that would be great. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.